The National Archives and Records Administration is reportedly working overtime to purge federal records and cover up the DOJ's action during the Biden administration. J. Michael Waller, he's a senior analyst for the strategy at Center for Security Policy. He reported on this on X, and he's here to break it all down for us. So how did you find out what was going on and just the whole premise of this story where they're just trying to get rid of the records before the Trump administration comes in and takes over?
Well, there are a lot of good people still in the system, or at least enough of them to let us know what's going on. And what we've learned is that for years, every single federal agency has been in violation of federal law, of the Federal Records Act, as it was amended even under the Obama administration for electronic records. So they've been destroying records that are part of our national, heritage. It's the property of all of us. And they're destroying these archival records for carelessness purposes and for political purposes. So what we have right now is a wholesale destruction of federally owned documents.
So can you give us a picture of the sorts of things that we could be talking about that would be significant?
Well, Matt, the main ones are electronic documents. This would include emails, text messages, Skype or Zoom interviews and conferences, any recordings like that, which under the law are to be preserved for the National Archives, for future researchers and for part of our record of our system of government. There are ways to remove or destroy these documents that are legal under the law, but no government agency is abiding by the law, especially agencies like the Department of Justice.
Yeah, you're saying it's illegal, but if nobody's actually going to go after the people doing the illegal things, then there's really no incentive to stop them from doing so. Isn't that part of the problem? And do you think that is actually going to change moving forward?
Well, let's hope it will change. I mean, this is something that nobody really paid attention to. No presidents of any party really paid attention to because, records and documents and archives are kind of boring unless you're an archivist or a researcher or an investigative journalist. Otherwise, people just don't care. And really, when you're thinking of deleting your own emails and so forth or text, well, it's okay to do it on your own phone, but not on a taxpayer-issued phone. And this is part of the problem. So there are legal ways to do it, and there are legal channels to do it, and there are actual officials whose exact title and job description are to be in charge of doing this and to consult with the National Archives and Records Agency for how to do this properly. And in these cases, it just hasn't been done. Now, they got smart in July, right when about Biden was pushed out and Kamala Harris was brought in to run. One of the very top people at the National Archives and Records Administration went over. He took a demotion. His name was Lawrence Brewer. He took a demotion to go over to the Department of Justice to show DOJ how they can appear to comply with the law and destroy their records in a way that's undetectable and might or might not be legal looking.
Yeah, so and this is really important because here we have something the entire nation cares about. This is a large part of the election is that people would go in and clean house at DOJ and these other agencies. And what you're describing is an effort that's already been underway for months to scrub everything, right? To wipe like the CD, as Hillary would say, to wipe it. So this is exceedingly alarming. I would say maybe not surprising to some of us at all. So the big question is, what can be done about it? I mean, it is illegal, and you have an administration coming in. I mean, how do we triage this? What do we do?
Well, I think the first thing to do is for President Trump to come right out and say, there is a Federal Records Act that has 3-year prison sentences for the illegal destruction of documents. And what I'm going to do as president is to press criminal charges against anyone responsible for the illegal destruction of documents or the concealment or alteration of documents and throw the book at him. Not just 3-year sentence for the whole thing, 3-year sentence per document.
Well, that's an interesting thought. I hope that it happens. Some things, though, that we've seen in this last 9 days, it does give us a little smile on our face. It does make us think that maybe we can take back some of the power in D.C. What have you thought since Donald Trump got elected and the moves that you've seen him make so far? What are your initial thoughts on this?
Well, they're really bold moves. It was a surprise to see Matt Gaetz named as Attorney General. And first I was sort of scratching my head, but then I thought, no, you need a bull in the china shop to rip the rot out of the place. And there's nobody like Matt Gaetz who can do that. So he seems to be the right man for the job, but a complete surprise.
Yeah, and so you get people, shocked by all this, and then you get people, just just happy. The main concern, the only concern that I have, and this is where I want your thoughts, is when these people go in to do this, what you just described to us is actually going to affect all of them. I mean, most of these issues are about cleaning house and looking back to the past and making sure the American people are aware of exactly what happened. I mean, everything from Fauci and the COVID stuff, I mean, it's all over the place if you're going to clean this out. And that also would entail, I would imagine, speaking to the public. These people are going to need to speak to the public about this issue. But what's your sense of, we can talk about that and also in general, what's your sense of what will be required, to go in and actually clean house?
If you do it the right way, it can be done. Just think the top people in these administrative positions, the political appointees, they often have their own lawyers or they have the financial means to get their own lawyers, but their underlings don't. They're anonymous underlings. So what you do is you go after the underlings. You give them the prospect of either lawyering up or turning state's evidence against their bosses. Mm-hmm. And that's how you clean house in cases like this.
I think that's what we're all going to be looking forward to. And it's just one of those things that every single day we get another nominee out there. And it's actually an exciting time to watch what's going on in Washington, D.C. J. Michael Waller, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Jill and Matt.
And Matt, I think it's important to just highlight the cases like this because there is so much that can be done right now as we look forward. But they can't keep getting away with this. And in the name, and it's kind of funny to me, the name that kept popping in my head during that whole time was Sandy Berger when he stuffed the documents down his pants and went through. And that was for the Clinton administration, right? Yes. Like that was the old school way if they had the printed documents. But now they don't even have to be on sheets of paper. They can just erase text messages or emails. Yeah,
I mean, I think, of course, nothing is ever... digital technology is about recording. It's about memory and retrieval and holding everything. So it's hard to actually wipe anything. But yes, it's in a sense it's easier. I mean, I want the opinion piece from him ASAP. We need to publish this and promulgate it. I've only seen a few other people talking about it yet. Yeah. We need the attention of the American people and leaders paid to the issue. We need to start talking about it out loud a lot. Don't get rid of anything because justice is coming, right? And I think what he just said is true, right? If it's up to 3 years in jail, if you really make clear that you're gonna prosecute, you'll see it change. Because here's the thing: it's hard for official DC to realize that they're actually in trouble.
That's exactly.
I saw
the point.
Andy McCabe on CNN or MSNBC, one of these channels last night. They asked him, "Are you afraid?" He's like, "Oh, I'm afraid for the Department of Justice and whatever." Yeah. But I don't feel the fear yet. Once they realize this is real and that sets in, and people are actually going to go to prison, I think we'll see a sea change.
Yeah, they're like, I'm afraid for my department right now. And eventually that is going to turn to be like, oh, no, I should be afraid for all of the things that I'm doing, not just saving the department.